Hello, 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 game enthusiasts, game industry heads, and gamers. I am the Purple Sharpie's younger sister, also known as Sharpie. How you doing today? I am so excited to be speaking with the lead developer, writer, and narrative designer of the award-nominated game LIONKILLER, Sisi. How are you doing today, Sisi?
I'm doing well, thank you.
First of all, I just want to congratulate you because I understand that LIONKILLER was actually nominated for the Indie Game Festival's 2020 Award of Excellence in Narrative. Congratulations on receiving that nomination, and congratulations on being a finalist as well.
Thank you.
I would absolutely love to hear a little bit more about the game. Can you go ahead and give me just a quick synopsis on LIONKILLER?
Yeah, it's a choose your own adventure game that's has branching narrative, and it's about Mulan set during the Opium War, and it's actually a game made in Twine, which is a program that people can use to create and publish interactive fiction games. It's been in development. It was in development for around 2 years, but with like different, but like kind of like there were some pauses in between, but it was completed in around 2 years. So yeah, it's pretty exciting that this game is recognized for this prestigious award.
It's exciting for a multitude of reasons. Not only was your game fantastically written, but it is a much different game than some of the other games that we've been broadcasting today. And I wanted to touch a little bit more on that if you would be so comfortable. But before we do that, I want to actually get into who you are as a person, if we could, Sisi. And I understand that you come from really humble beginnings and you weren't actually originally inside of the gaming field when you first started out. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I never got a programming degree. Um, cause like, I don't know. I think it's like, I never really like thought of myself as like someone who could be like creating video games. Like, I went to university in Austin and I didn't realize like there was an entire games industry there. And I know that it's really funny because it's like Austin is such a big game hub. Like a lot of big companies are there, but I didn't know. So I was originally like thinking about going to like law school, but then I was like, that's a lot of money. I am really scared of borrowing six figures of like student loans. So I went and like worked for a lawyer for a little bit, and I was like honestly pretty bored out of my mind. So I was like, and then I went to GDC off a whim, and then I was like, whoa, there's like an industry that like makes video games. So a little while later, I ended up actually quitting my job at the law firm, which actually don't do that, especially if you don't know what you're doing and you're
Yeah,
living in a city by yourself.
money is very nice. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I would not do that again if but like the fact that I did quit my job gave me like a lot of time to like just play around in the engine. And LIONKILLER is actually like the first like game that I was like determined to finish. Like I made a prototype thing as my first project, but LIONKILLER I guess is my first like seriously sit down. I'm gonna have like a plan to like actually make a self-contained project. And the intention was I'm gonna make a little demo and like I'll submit it to like game companies and they'll hire me. And it was literally like I need a playable sample to get companies to take me seriously, and didn't actually think I'd get this far. I'm like that plankton meme, like I don't know what I'm gonna do now that I got this far.
Yeah.
So I was developing it, and then I ran out of money. And
Mm,
running out of money in a big city is not fun.
mm.
So I went and looked for a job, and I was like, I still want to make this game. So I found like a night shift job where like it was graveyard shift. So it was like literally like 11 p.m. to like 6 a.m. So like I was working, but like most of the time nobody was bothering me. And like my boss was like, "You want to watch Netflix? You can watch Netflix." So I was like, "Cool, I'm gonna use this time to make a video game." So I ended up like making LIONKILLER and like on off during my job. Like I mean, my boss signed off on it, but like I was like making it on my job, and then after a while, I was like, And then like I got laid off from that job when
Oof.
everyone got laid off because
Yeah.
like there was some like situation with the company that I'm not too familiar with, but like everyone got laid off, and I'm like, well, I guess this is the end of my adventure because like I had to go look for something else, and I was like always looking for something else, and it was just like a really stressful time. But like I think it's important for people to hear because I know a lot of people of color are like making games, like making like games in like Ren'Py or like RPG Maker while they're like working at like a non-glamorous day job, and like so it's kind of like the origins of LIONKILLER. Like definitely, like the first part was like is that it's me working a very like not glamorous job at a hotel, and like and like and just like doing like spreadsheets and like saying hi to customers and stuff like that. You know, like while I was making this game. So like I mean like and now it's like my like game is listed in magazines like Verge and Bloomberg and like Digital Spy and like I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically like it went somewhere. So like I kind of but and then like eventually like Wattpad, like one of the product managers of Wattpad was actually playing my game, and she was like, "This is so good. We'd like to give you a little bit of money to like get you to finish it." I was like, "Cool." So that's how like the rest of it got made. And honestly, like can't emphasize enough that like funding prototypes is so important, and like the product manager was also a person of color, and she was able to see potential in like giving me money to finish up this game because like she was able to like really relate to like some of the themes in the game. So like I think this just like furthers part of our conversation about how like you can't like you can't advocate for and support talent if you're not the kind of person who is like capable of recognizing talent when you see it. Because like a lot of people, not everyone believed in LIONKILLER. Like a lot of people did not believe in it. I mean, obviously, like once it got to the IGF jury, like the jury and the jurists, they really believed in it. But like among like because I was showing this game off to like some people in the indie community, some people in the game design colleges, and like I got a lot of feedback that was like, "We don't know what this is. Why is there so much reading?" and stuff like that. So it's like so it's just like another matter of like you do have to like eventually wait or find someone who like understands what your project is really about and why it's good and important. So I ended up making the rest of the game, and actually this is where, because I was set on someone else's like time schedule a little bit more, I was like ended up making the game very differently. Like in the beginning I was very experimental and like did weird things in the game just to see if it was possible to do them because I was still learning the software. But then once I was put on like, oh, like I'm producing this for someone else, so then I started making like leaning more to the story, the narrative component, to like really like so like there's less like kind of like puzzles and more about like the story branching, the characters, the events, stuff like that. And honestly, I think it made for a better game. Um, but like yeah, like most of what you're going to see in the video is going to be like early, very very early stuff that I'm actually a little bit like bashful about because I'm like, this is from 2 years ago. You know, you don't want to go back to your stuff, looking back to your stuff from 2 years ago and thinking, whew, I would not do it this way, the same way if I was doing this again.
So, Sisi, I'm seeing your game. I'm looking at it. I'm reading all of these fantastic things. I'm clicking and I'm loving it. Why don't we talk a little bit more about how your game may be slightly different than other games that we've seen presented today, but how it's just as valid and just as good?
Okay. Um, I think the main real like disadvantage that I got is that this game is like it's a little unconventional to stream. It definitely like it's harder to get video of because like you have to make sure the player is like actually reading the words, and when you're not actually reading the words then it becomes a little harder to parse what it's about and what it is. um but like I think it's just like when you're having a game that's very text heavy, it requires a different way of engaging with it. It requires you to like use more imagination instead of like interpreting things like objects in games very literally, like because like in most games like you see an object that looks like a car and your brain instantly thinks car, but like if I describe a car to you, you actually have to use your like brain to like think about like a car. And so it's just a different way of consuming a game, kind of like, I don't know if you've ever played the Ace Attorney, but a
Yes.
lot of people love Ace Attorney, and that game, I mean, it's similar in that like there's a lot of words and it's about a story, but the way that you consume that game is that the way you interact with it is not just by clicking. You also interact with Ace Attorney by solving the mystery in your mind. So like there's another layer of an Ace Attorney game that's like you're solving the mystery, you're doing the who done it. And like so like when you're like and so when you're playing my game, it's also like you're also trying to participate by like imagining things, by thinking about outcomes, and like there's a because like if you really like get deep into the history of visual novels or like interactive fiction, like there's another whole layer of the game that's like in visualizing outcomes in terms of like cause and effect, and like there's a lot of really cool more modern games that also like play on the idea that of like parallel like timelines and like in the universes and stuff. Mine doesn't like go as deep into that, but there is a whole tradition with like thinking about play in a different way.
I I want to touch a little bit more on something that you said earlier, and that is the streamability of the game, because I feel like that's a very important part of what allows games to be visible today. And I'd like to get your thoughts on how you feel in general streaming has changed how games are consumed and how games are recognized as being good or bad.
Yeah, of course. I definitely think that the game, like, even to like, it suffered in terms of visibility by not being as streamable. But I think that that like I still wouldn't change it, because it's actually like the things that make it not streamable is the reason why I made it this way. You know,
Mm.
like because like. Okay, this is coming to my gaming history, but okay, so when I was a young gamer, I it was a different era back then, you know, like games were considerably less mainstream,
Mm.
and you usually inherited like consoles from like older siblings or cousins, and you like and then like also like games are still kind of this thing that were like distracting from grades or going to college or getting a sports scholarship or whatever. And so it was very much that back then. And I used to play my Game Boy Color, big Game Boy Advance, like underneath the bed sheets. I used to have like a little light in like a flashlight underneath the bed,
Yeah.
and just like trying to game. And then like sometimes my parents would catch me and all hell would break loose. But like I was that kind of gamer. Like the kind of game, like the way that I've shaped my relationship to games is a very personal experience. Like what is more personal than being up at like 10 p.m. with a flashlight underneath your covers trying to finish up your game on your Game Boy Advance? Or
Yeah.
like once I got one with a backlight, it was like, whoa, backlights!
Oh, the
I can
Game Boy
play a game
SPs.
anywhere.
The
Yeah.
SPs were
So
so great.
I feel
Yeah.
like such an oldie. I feel so old, but like that was my experience. Is like playing games is a highly personal experience, and I think to me, even now, a lot of my games, like the kind of hallmark of my games is that they're very is that like my personal experimental things. It's like the little more difficult to like really like I like there are like, you know how there's screenshots of jokes that are like really self-explanatory and like
Yeah.
really self-contained. My jokes and my like screenshots and a lot of my games are not necessarily as self-contained, because you need the context of like having played the game, like having actually gone through the journey in
Yeah.
order to understand that screenshot. So like also like even screenshots, like I post some screenshots that I thought were just really good writing, but like you don't really have any like idea like about the emotional context or like anything unless you've actually like bought the game and played it. So to me, like and that's part of how I was like playing games and viewing games, is that like to me like playing Lion Killer should be a very intimate personal experience.
Mm.
And so like it's almost a little bit like antithetical to the like experience of like streaming and like you're playing to an audience. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that people have streamed Lion Killer before, like, because people have linked me to it. So like I
Mm.
know for a fact that it's not like it's streamable. It's just not optimized for
Mm.
like a streaming format. And I think that like doesn't mean that it's an inferior game. It just means that I made certain trade-offs for
Mm-hmm.
people to get a specific experience when they're actually playing the game. Because like what I do, like I think what makes really helped Lion Killer is that when I design with very strong intentionality. Like even the placement of like where the links are, which like words are the link and which ones are not the link, it's very intentional. And I really want people when they're playing the game, I want them to feel that I've placed certain words in a certain way and in like certain things are links because I designed this game specifically for people to like to be like enjoyed a certain way. So yeah, it's like it's a very so it feels personal. It feels like I am designing this for you, even though it's like not like like it's not like HD like pew pew going on.
I absolutely love that. I think one of the greatest things that you specifically did with Lion Killer is we see so many there are a lot of intentional moments inside of the game in and of itself. The act of actually moving the cursor to different parts of the screen from scene to scene does change. And there are parts where after you get an explanation, you do have to drag your cursor halfway across the screen and be like, do I really want to make this choice? Do I really want to do it? Even just having to move that length is huge. And that's something that I experienced just watching the gameplay. That was very, very beautifully done. I want to touch a little bit more on something that you said previously yet again, and that is that you feel like you were able to directly capture yourself and your essence inside of that game. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that experience because that is something that I frequently have heard from other developers today. And my curiosity kind of peaks from did at any point in time did you ever think that Lion Killer was going to go a different route than it did?
Oh, constantly. Um, a lot of decisions, like design decisions, like they're not nearly as authored, I think, as non-developers think they are. A lot of them are really just like a random whim that you're like, oh, this would just be interesting. Or like, I am tired of working on this. I'm just gonna cut this short and move on to the next thing. So like definitely, I mean, there are just those moments where you're just like, I mean, there's like I just don't think there's a way to like just like exact plan down like dot to dot like what every moment is supposed to be like, and I think I very intentionally designed it to be like for like I don't want to be like sound like a control freak, but that was kind of what I was with this game. I was like I wasn't just gonna like write a bunch of words. I was gonna write a script and just plug it in and and just put links where they need to be because I wanted to be very intentional about like every step of the way, every single sentence, every paragraph. I've approved the way that it's like it's laid out, approved of the way that the player is supposed to go through it. And like all of those links, I think there's probably like 10, 15 links a page, on some of them. And it was a lot of work. It like definitely tripled my work. Like I was design always takes me a lot more time than writing takes me time, and that could just be because I'm a lot faster at writing. But it's just like to me like it's very like intentional placement. All that design is like it's very labor intensive, and I think it's important. And I don't think that Lion Killer would have been as recognized if not for like I was really able to like get through to people through like this kind of interactive format. And I think that's really important for like game developers who are not like or who don't have like like who are not sitting on like a bunch of like money to make games, or like people who are like intimidated by like how much like how to like make a game that's as good as a AAA game. Like I mean like when games like Witcher 3 exist, it's kind of like it's like how do you like make a game that can like kind of compare, And I think to me, like, well, then you should just take advantage of what your format offers, like the intimacy, for example, because, like, not saying that AAA games can't be intimate because a lot of them are, but like, it's just like you have a lot more personal control over that intimacy. And I just think that, like, if you're going to make a game and you don't have a lot of resources, the best course of action is just to be extremely sincere with what you're doing. Like don't put out something that's insincere. Don't put out something that's like haha, wouldn't it be funny if like life has no meaning or something? Like there's a lot of games like that, and I'm just like, but like if you can just put your sincere intentions into that game, I think you can really like kind of like grab a hold of your audience that way, in a way that like can make up for not having a huge budget. Because I'm still making games without like a ginormous budget.
I think that you really hit it on the head when you said just be sincere. I think that that's something that we've seen a lot of designers this weekend talk about and express that that's how they felt. But seeing your game and seeing how it's vastly visually different from so many other games, and seeing that you still have that same level of passion, that same level of authenticity, that same level of sincerity throughout the entirety of the game is so beautiful, is so amazing, and is so wonderful. And I think that's really what all of the critics saw as well inside of your art. Because I mean, if I came to through to me to the player, I'd be surprised if no one else saw it. You know what I mean? We only have time for one additional question. So I actually wanted to talk about a specific section of your game. And I'm hoping that this moment isn't spoilers. But
Oh,
I
it's
would
fine. I mean, it's been out for a while.
I would absolutely love to hear what was your favorite section of the game and why.
Um, honestly, it like I can't say what it is from as a player, because when you develop a game, you can't really play it objectively anymore. I'll just say what was fun to work on. I really enjoyed working on the war scenes actually, of when the British ships roll up to the to like the pyre, because I just like writing about, like, I have a history degree. I really like writing historical scenes. I like writing about the drama. I like writing about the complexity, because like, I mean, I think a lot of people who write about war, and I think a lot of narratives in games about war are too certain, you know, like they're too like cut and dry, you know, like just bodies pile, like or just very like bodies are new numbers or
Yeah.
experience points, and like that's okay, because like I mean that's the history of our medium, and I think that like we need, like, in order to get somewhere different, we have to like be like making things in a certain way for a while, but like also, like, I just think it would just be like a lot more realistic and a lot more interest to introduce that uncertainty aspect, like the part where the protagonist doesn't know which people died, because like the protagonist doesn't see them get up afterwards, but they might not have died. But you
Yeah.
don't know, because when you're in a like a kind of like a battlefield, you do not know. But like in games, in most video games, you know immediately, oh, that person dead because I got 50 EXP off of them. And but like in like war, even in war records, it's like casualties are faked all the
Yeah.
time. Like politicians will definitely, I mean, downplay these numbers for like political reasons, or like exaggerate the number of people they've killed because like it's masculine or whatever.
Hmm.
So like I just really like that like uncertainty of like you don't really know what's going on because there's like gunfire and cannonballs all over and like everything is bad. So that's also just like in general, like I would love to see more of that kind of design in like war game, like games that like talk about war.
I'd like to touch very, very briefly because we have about 4 minutes left.
Yeah, go
Um,
ahead.
I wanted to touch on in that previous statement. You actually stated that you have a history background. Did that play at all into you deciding this specific story? I know previously you've told us that you are an avid gamer, that you grew up with video games and everything like that. And even at your previous job that you did before you started pursuing this, you felt like just kind of a number and everything like that. Did you specifically look up Fa Mulan's or Hua Mulan's story because there was something that resonated with you inside of it?
Honestly, a part of this was just like I needed to find a Chinese story that like that Americans might know. I actually didn't watch Disney's Mulan until I was like 21, 20. Yeah, I
Mm.
think I was 21. So so I didn't really have this like personal connection to the film due to I've never seen it.
Mhm, mhm.
uh, yeah, so like by the time I saw it, it was just kind of another animated movie to me. You know, like I'm
Yeah.
just like I watch anime, and that like I prefer anime. So it's just like I just like by that point I was like I watched a lot of good stuff already. So it's like, oh, I don't really feel any specific thing to it. So like yeah, I did have a history degree, and when I dug into this, was like, ooh, I love writing about history. I love writing historical fiction. I was like, so it's just like sticking with like if you're making a long project, make it about something you actually like want to write about.
Mhm.
So that was definitely it. And actually, the other thing that people don't know about me that I don't advertise that often is that I got an ethnic studies degree, and I have
Mm.
like an accidental like certificate in European studies. So I just like mushed a lot of like academic background together to make this game. And
Mm.
so like this is kind of why I'm like, oh, I would just love it if more developers came from like not computer science. I mean,
Mm.
no, nothing on people who come from computer science, but just
Mhm,
like
mhm.
there's so much like interesting like stuff because I just get so excited when I think about like botanists or like or like geologists or like like any like people from like a totally different field making video games. It's like,
Mhm.
what if like we got people like who are like just like like people are just really nerdy about a specific thing to get more to make more video games. I just think that'd be really interesting and also good for indie.
Oh, 100%. Diversity inside of video games, not just in terms of sex, gender, or race, but in terms of just interest and hobbies is super incredibly important. And I think this game is a fantastic example of what you can accomplish when you are from a different interest background than others,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Okay, I want to touch up on one final question, and that question
That's like a
is
lot of
I
extra
know there are a
questions.
lot of final questions, but good things come in three. The final question is what's next for you?
Oh, I'm actually working on a 3D game right now. It's like I tell people it's like queer Minotaur. It's like Minotaur and like the Labyrinth, but like you play as like a Theseus, which is kind of like the Greek hero who was supposed to like slay the Minotaur, except he kind of like fell in love and like made a life, and now he is trying to leave a relationship that he no longer loves.
Mm.
So, and that's the game. Like you get him to navigate the relationship and the labyrinth, and like I mean, it's better than it sounds. I've just been working on it for so long that I can't sound excited about it anymore.
You're like, I'm tired. I want it to come out.
I was just like, I can't stop I finishing it. There's always more to finish.
Mhm.
So yeah, watch for Theseus, which is coming out hopefully this year, and I will cry if it's next year. But yeah, I am still working on stuff. It's just when you're the only person working on a 3D game, it comes along very
It
slowly.
takes a time. It takes time, but all good things do. And you have already created greatness. I'm so excited to see what you're going to do next. Where can people follow along and find more of your projects?
Oh yeah, I'm mostly on Twitter at s, like I feel like I should link this somewhere, but like six spelled out and then the number six and then JIANG
Oh,
is where I
wow.
spend most of my time on Twitter. But and you can just Google Lion Killer and like my SEO is good enough that you'll find my itch.io page probably, and then like you can find my socials on the like the developer profile. So like you can also do that there. Honestly, there's probably a lot of like articles out there that link to my social media, maybe. So like honestly, it shouldn't be that complicated to like find me, maybe.
Yeah. Friend, we have to get you a PR person. That's what you need. I know
No,
a
that's
great person. Her name is Sharpie. She goes by the Purple Sharpie. I happen to know her. I'm her younger sister. We can exchange some socials later. But thank you so much again, Sisi, for taking time to talk to us today.
of course, it's been my pleasure.
All right, everybody, that's going to go ahead and do it for this interview. But stay tuned. I happen to know from a little bird. My older sister, Sharpie, has quite a few other interviews to do. I believe she's almost done with her restroom break. So I'm a peace out, but I'll see y'all later. Enjoy the remainder of Game Devs of Color Expo 2020. I am not the Purple Sharpie. See you soon.